Hi, everybody, and welcome to this first conversation in a series of Nova 111 talks with none other than Sana Alajmovic, co-founder and CEO of Sigrid Therapeutics. Just first a short intro from me, Niklas Obel, who is responsible for Nova in the Nordics. This conversation will last until roughly 1 or quarter past 1 if there are a lot of questions from you listeners. And basically it will be divided into 3 parts. First, I will give you a brief introduction to Nova and to the Nova 111 list. And then we will focus on the reason why we're here, the conversation with Sana, of course. And like I said, the last part will be a Q&A session where you have the opportunity to raise questions in the chat, and we will try to answer them to the best of our abilities. Many of you listeners are Nova members. Others are not. So, and for those of you who are not familiar with Nova, Nova is by invitation only top talent network born in Sweden in 1997. And today we have over, this is slightly outdated slide. We are growing, which is great. So there are plus 12,000 members globally today, and roughly 7,000 members in the Nordics. And our main objective is to connect and develop our members and help them accelerate their development, their careers, and also the impact they can have both within the companies that they are working, but also on society as a whole. And if we change slides there, please. The Nova network was basically born, like I said, in the late 90s here in Sweden, and was born from a list called the Nova 100. And last year in 2020, we decided it was time to revitalize that list and launch a new kind of talent list, the Nova 111, which we have basically called the first evidence-based talent list, where it has been our objective to identify and present the 10 stars within 11 categories, basically. And we have used serious and scientifically based selection process in this, and used both IQ and personality tests as well as video interviews, and each nominee has been reviewed by a jury of industry experts as well as assessment professionals. And we've gone basically from 1,500 nominees to a list of then 10 stars within 11 categories. And the jury has also selected 1 outstanding talent in each category. And in this series of conversations, we will have the privilege to meet these 11 superstars. So please enjoy this conversation with Sana Alajmovic, who is the jury's choice and winner of the healthcare and life science category in the Nova 111 list. Welcome, Sana.
Thank you, Niklas. Thank you for that warm welcome.
When we met, just the first time was just about a month ago in Corona-safe environment at Banj.
Yes.
You struck me as a very passionate and energetic person. Where does this passion come from?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, genetics, I assume. Obviously, it's always genetics to a large extent. But I think also just, my background. I think my, coming to Sweden here as a refugee when I was 5 years old with my grandmother, my mother, and our little brother, gave me sort of a hunger, to work very hard, to create a better life. Initially for myself, and then later on, as you get more comfortable in life, you focus on the global impact that you actually can create. So it's more about others. But in the beginning, my story was one of those, rags to riches, just trying to make a better life for myself and my family.
Interesting. Tell us a little bit about that before we go into your current life, basically within. How was that arriving in a new country as a young child? and making the most of it?
Well, I think it was pretty daunting because you are so young, and yet you are so alert into all into all these new impressions. So first we had to flee, since there was an aggression on Bosnia-Herzegovina. It was the former Yugoslavia, and a war broke out. And both of my parents were very well educated, so they were on the list of being assassinated, basically. My father's a physician, a doctor, and my mother's a lawyer. She was a judge at the higher court back in Bosnia. So we had to flee for our lives. And then when you come here, as a kid, you don't really think about those type of things in the beginning. But it's when you start, preschool, early education, that you notice, oh my God, we're sort of different. My last name is different. The teachers always have a hard time pronouncing it, Alajmovic. Now, thanks to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, it's become much easier. But at that point in time, it was a strange last name. You always had, clothes that were different from the rest. We were always, several seasons back in terms of fashion. You couldn't travel, like when there was sportlov, people went skiing or something. We never went anywhere. So you started to notice, first, oh my God, we're poor. And either, you sulk about it, or, as my mother, she said, we are less fortunate in that sense. But, that's why if you want to change anything in your life, you have to work very hard, and you have to do it through education. Both my parents instilled a lot, the education is very important. So I think, that created just an insatiable drive and hunger to actually change my own situation into something more favorable.
That's an amazing story, and probably one that is shared by, since Sweden has taken in a lot of immigrants the past years, that is shared by many more people today. But how did you, when you say that, that insatiable drive, where did you put that into the early years? What were your passions growing up?
Well, studying was very important. So I've always studied very hard. It was just a way, because basically you can come to school, you don't have the right shoes, you don't live at the right place, you're not vacationing at the right spots, but you can still get the best results in school, right? You can nail a test. And then the money, the prestige, the vacation houses, they won't, in school, it's all going to be fair, right? So I just found a way, oh my God, I don't have what these other kids have, but I can still beat them in one point. I can beat them in school. And that created this sense of competitiveness, right? And I had a great sparring partner in Aida Hadjalic, who is now also, or who has been one of the youngest ministers in Sweden. But the two of us really shared, this drive. Both our parents were very, very tiger moms, and we had each other, and we had the support at home that, when you came home and, you felt like, oh my God, we hated the Christmas because we never celebrated Christmas. We didn't know what Kalle Anka was about. My mom always said, Sana, it hurts now, but just, wait a couple of years. It won't matter 5-6 years ahead or 10 years ahead. You'll be at another position then. And that's sort of, to sort of like keep striving and think that you actually can work hard to change your life situation. That support helped me a lot throughout my career.
You also had, obviously your parents very highly educated and with careers before they had to leave. How difficult was it with the language barriers? Do you remember at all, or were you already fluent when you started school?
So since I was 5 years old, I picked up Swedish really well. And since I loved reading and studying, I really pride myself when I was in the 8th grade and I got MVG at that time. I don't know if you still have those letters, but I got the top grade in Swedish. and none of the other Swedish kids have gotten it. And that was like it was such a badge of honor, you know. I beat the Swedes in their own language, right?
In their own, yeah. Amazing.
Oh, sorry, Niklas.
No. And then going forward in life, you at one point you decide to apply to SSE, the sort of, the primary business school, if you may, and the hardest one to get into in Sweden. What drove your interest towards business in general?
Well, I mean, honestly, none of my parents was really into business, and there was a bit of a sort of disappointment. Are you going to business school? You know, an economist, that's not a real profession. You know, you should become a doctor or, you know, or a psychologist or something that helps people. But I have never known what I wanted to become. You know, some people know they wanted to become, you know, I knew since I was 12 years old, I wanted to become a physician or something. I never knew that, right? So I thought out to myself, I have these grades. I've always had top grades. What do I do with them, right? And being competitive as I am, I was like, you know, what's the best thing? I mean, what's the toughest thing you can get into here in Sweden? And Handels was one of them, and it felt like it was a broad enough, you know, platform to stand on with the business degree. Now, I don't even like maths. I sort of like hate maths. I'm not even good at it, right? But, you know, I figured that it's, you know, there must be other things within economics, you know, marketing, human resources, and not only, you know, becoming a national economist or statistics or whatever it is. So I actually, you know, applied on a whim. And I think I can say that for my whole career. It's never been really planned. I'm a very passionate, spontaneous person. I do a lot of things on a whim. And I think that's also fine because, you know, there's different ways to build a company, and there are definitely different ways to build a career as well. You don't have to be, you know, some people, they make a, you know, Excel sheet. I'm going to be 2 years in consulting, 3 years in banking, 2 years here. That's also one way to do it. I've never done it that way.
And then you know, when you were closing to your graduation there, how you know, what were your thoughts about career back then, and tell us a bit about that process in transitioning from being a student into your early career.
I think that process is very daunting. So because you're like in the safe nest of SSC or, you know, any school, and you get wined and dined, and, you know, you get to see these partners of McKinsey and all of those, and they come and they have these fancy houses, and, you know, and your whole career, I mean, is ahead of you, and you think you're made for greatness, and suddenly you come out there and you feel very lost. What do I want to do? You know, and or you start working somewhere and it didn't turn out to be that great as you envisioned it, or and I'm seeing that in a lot of, you know, people who went to SSC and then they start consulting or banking 2-3 years after. You know, a lot of them are actually searching for themselves. They go to yoga retreats, or, you know, they're reinventing themselves. And that period was very daunting because I graduated, I didn't know what to do, basically. Nothing really, you know, piqued my interest. So I told myself, you know, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go and seek some inspiration. So I went to New York. And I got a scholarship to work at the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. And I just exposed myself to a lot of people, a lot of industries, and also, like, honestly, didn't think so hard about, you know, my career, just more, you know, living life, enjoying it, meeting all these people. And eventually I had an accident happening to me. I got a hernia disc, which almost left me paralyzed below my body. And you know, everything that I've taken for granted, basically health, you know, other people are sick. I am not sick. I'm strong. I am, you know, I wake up at 5 a.m. to go spinning. I basically, you know, had to take cortisone shots. I was on OxyContin drugs. And I felt so bad. And I realized, Jesus Christ, you know, health is really wealth. And somewhere in that crisis, I figured, wow, my father's a physician. He always talks about health, why? I mean, look what's happened to me. So I think I would like to spend my years and my passions in actually improving people's health, because I've now experienced what it means to not to have it. So that's where I met different mentors and companies, and I started learning more about that business area. And when I came back to Sweden, I sought out a venture capital firm investing in healthcare companies, and that's how I basically started my career in the life science healthcare business.
Wow. So basically it was sort of a life crisis, you may say, almost, with
Yes.
a herniated disc that brought you into, because when I listened to an earlier interview by you, you talked about that having found your calling, and that, you believe that you will work within the healthcare industry for the rest of your life. And I think you are so right about that. There are quite not that many people are happy enough to find their calling like that. So, and especially in the young years when you are searching a lot. So, but that was before Sigrid, right?
Yes, it was before Sigrid.
And how did you then tell us a little bit about that first work experience within the healthcare industry, and then how you came later then to be a co-founder of Sigrid Therapeutics?
Yes, I mean, I think it's very important, to go where you can stand out. So if I just went to PR and marketing, I will be just yet another blonde, but if I go to an industry which is, very heavy on researchers, very heavy on males perhaps, then you can really stand out. And if you are sort of secure in yourself and what you can, bring to the table, and you can articulate that very clearly, then, this community will see, wow, she has something, I met a lot of researchers, wow, she can really tell a story, or she can really sell our research in a very pedagogical way, which many ways, they are themselves don't have interest in or are not very good at. So I think it's important, to go and expose yourself to an industry where you can stand out, where you can be different. And that's also what's interesting in life. We start being young kids wanting to fit in. And then as we age, we realize that really what the winning formula for success is to stand out, to be different, to have that last name Alajmovic, or to have a different life story, and I think that's so important. I would also like to say, when I started working at this venture capital firm, I realized it really wasn't, it was too little operations, because I wanted to, I wanted to work, I wanted to learn the craft, and I had a bit of a consulting role. So I quit after 5-6 months. And I remember a lot of my friends from SSC telling me, Sana, you can't do that. You have to be 2 years at a company. It will look bad on your resume. And I was like, your resume, what about my life? What about if I'm enjoying it? If I'm, so you wouldn't say to someone who's in an abusive relationship, oh my God, stick it out, 2 more years. It doesn't look good for your relationships, future relationships, if you sort of bail out after 2 years. But I was here for 5-6 months. Wasn't for me. I quit. And then I had met Barbara Emboom, a life science figure in New York, and she had this conference called Swedish American Life Science Summit. So she offered me to become the project leader for that summit, and I took that on and did a great summit. I exposed myself once and again to a lot of people, a lot of different investors in healthcare, and entrepreneurs in healthcare, business executives in healthcare. So I sort of built a platform there. And eventually, also by rare serendipity, I was out having a drink with a friend of mine, and I started chatting to this guy at a bar, and he's an investor, and he's just invested in a nanotech company. A lot of researchers, they're looking for a business development person. And he said, I think you should really, work for us. And a couple of interviews later, I was like, should I go again on the safe bet, the Ernst & Youngs of this world, or should I just join this unknown small startup nanotech company? I'm clueless in nanotech, but what the heck, I'll learn along the way. And I did that. And after 8 months at that company, 80% of revenues were all my accounts. The shareholders, the board noticed this, and they said, if you ever want to start a company of your own, you know, we will be happy to fund you. And eventually Sigrid was born.
Amazing. Just the way you tell it, I mean, basically, I mean, you were on a personal marketing campaign there of sorts. I mean, exposing yourself, because that's also interesting. I mean, you didn't become passive in that, but basically you created so many chances for these serendipity moments to happen.
Exactly.
And so tell us about that. So basically, you had a lot of the prerequisites then to start a company. But how did Sigrid actually come about? How was it?
Well, when I was working at Nanologica, we had a collaboration with Professor Tore Bengtsson, a brilliant professor in physiology at Stockholm University, and he had spent 20, 30 years of his career researching and understanding the mechanisms behind obesity and diabetes. So we initiated a collaboration with him, and when I was out pitching to investors, well, actually, I wasn't really pitching. The CEO was pitching, but I asked, "Can I come with you?" Because I wanted to learn. And I noticed really whenever we were talking about what the company business was, investors were all okay, so and so. But whenever we mentioned the specific asset that we had, that Tore had developed, their eyes just went like this. You could see they were so excited. So I figured that the value here is really within that asset. So eventually, we actually were able, Tore and I, to spun out this asset into a separate company with me as a CEO and Tore as a chief scientific officer. So 2 of us as co-founders. And our initial investors, as I said, were those investors who had already invested in this company. But then eventually I had to raise more money and find new investors to bring on board. But basically, this is how it started. I just was at this company. I made this connection with Tore. The investors and the board saw some potential in me to lead this asset and to develop it further. And we got an opportunity to actually spun it out from this larger company.
And this was in 2014, right?
Yes, in 2014.
Yeah. And if you're looking back at these 7 years, then basically, what have been like the major highlights, but also maybe the hidden challenges that you wouldn't see coming?
So the highlights has been to discover something in the lab and to recruit the team that through all these ups and downs, a lot of downs, because it is in research, and if you're building something truly innovative, it's always like 1 step ahead, 2 steps back. Innovation takes time, but it's really been I think coming together in crisis as a team, the loyalty that I've seen and that we experienced, and just advancing this asset through so many crises, through so many setbacks, and then eventually to see that in 1 or 2 years this is a product that's going to impact millions of people globally, that's going to help them to be healthier, to prevent them from falling sick in diabetes and obesity. That I think is this life momentum, this life trajectory that we are on, that we're just so excited about, and that has been the highlight. When it comes to the negative things, I think just learning how hard it is to build a team that that actually works together, that is this whole culture, much more challenging than what I had in mind. It really took me some time to find to sort of sort that out. But also with investors, you get to learn so much about how to protect your ownership, how to to continuously, increase the valuation or build value in your company and bring in money at higher valuations, to protect, all interests of all shareholders. That has been challenging, and also a lot of politics. There's always politics, right, in any business. Those things have for sure been a steep learning curve.
And when you talk about it, it seems like it's difficult to miss the importance of you working with something that you feel can make a huge difference to the world. How important has that really been? I mean, during this quite I can just imagine. I mean, how much work you've put into this.
Well, I mean, you to be an entrepreneur, I think Larry Lexell said it the best, is to live with chronic anxiety. That's what it is. It's like, it's like, because majority of the times you're solving problems. You're not celebrating. You're solving problems. But then, after very many months of hard work, there gets a glimpse of hope, and you celebrate. And we actually have learned to just really celebrate. I always spend a lot on champagne every time we have something good to celebrate, because I know those moments, come so seldom, because you're so entrenched in just the work, in actually getting things done. Could I have been doing this if I wasn't passionate about the cause or the product? No, I don't think so. It's just that this product in itself, this innovation of ours, it will do good. It's just, so why not spend my life, doing, bringing this to the market, bringing this out to people, to patients, to consumers, to physicians. I mean, I couldn't think of something more meaningful to do in my life.
And where are you now in the process? I mean, it started as you said, basically as a research product, and then going. I know. I mean, your journey has been basically taking this from the lab out to the consumer market. Where are you in this process?
Yes, so life science business is a very regulated business, and Sigrid is in the intersection of life sciences and consumer healthcare. So we're developing a novel material, basically a biomaterial made of silicon dioxide, which we have engineered to entrap digestive enzymes inside your gut. And this is something you take orally as a gel or as a capsule, or you can, sprinkle it over your food. And you should take it together with the meal to get the most benefit from this. So, this is something that Tore tested in mice initially, and then we had to scale it up. First, the production from milligrams to grams to eventually kilograms, and now ton scale. And you also have to, you have to look at the safety and the efficacy, and you have to do this in clinical trials, very complicated clinical studies, which we have done. Earlier this year, we announced a production deal with a Japanese silica producer called AGC Chemicals for the large-scale production of this material, ton scale, industrial scale. So what we're working on right now is the formulation of actually making this into a tasty, user-friendly product. And now that we have the material, and likely this will be done the second half of this year, and then we will have to do a final clinical study, or we'll actually launch it as a supplement in some markets. So we're looking at 1 to 2 years before we actually finally hit the market. After it will be 9 years of research and development.
Amazing. I mean, that is a long time, but maybe a short time when it comes to developing a product like that. But and you mentioned briefly that it's about diabetes. But what does it actually do, and who will it help, and in what way?
So it will help people who have disturbances in their blood sugar levels. We're targeting specifically pre-diabetics. People whose blood sugar levels are higher than normal, but not yet type 2 diabetics. So for them today, they don't have a lot of options, unfortunately. There are no drugs or devices approved for pre-diabetics. There are tons of drugs if you are type 2 diabetics, but there is Nothing basically if you are pre-diabetic. Instead, the doctors tell you to go home, to exercise more, and to change your lifestyle. And we all know how difficult it is to change your lifestyle. You can change it for a couple of weeks or months, but then you always bounce back to what you had before. So we really need products such as our product SiPore 15, which is basically a drink or a powder which you can take together with the meal to change the way your body digests food, basically fats and carbohydrates. So it's like a life hack. It sort of removes a bit of these calories and energy, and it slows down your metabolism. So you get a lower blood sugar peak, you get a lower blood lipid peak, and this ultimately leads to a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases.
So it's basically, given the food that you're eating, you're making that
healthier,
healthier and less, let's say, poisonous, if you may, at least for the people with pre-diabetics syndrome. Amazing. And do you see any other applications? I mean, when you listen to this, you can you can think of it as a supplement, like you said. I mean, there will be, I suppose, a lot of people that suffer from metabolic syndrome in different ways that could benefit from a product like that.
Yes, you're so right, Niklas. So we are targeting pre-diabetics and early type 2 diabetics, which are not yet on any other medications. Obviously, obesity, we can tweak these materials, these biomaterials. So obesity is another indication. There are, we can basically do these materials to target specific biomolecules in the gut associated with the development of metabolic diseases. So what's really intriguing is about Sigrid, it's not that it's a one product, now we have this product, it's that it's a platform, a whole technology. And, if you want to build a sustainable company, you have to have more products in your pipeline. And we have that. So we are starting with this one because it's important to focus when you're a startup. But eventually, we are also looking forward to launching other products more targeted to weight loss, obesity, NASH, the modulation of gut microbiome, and so on.
Exciting. It seems also that this is a huge problem in all of Western and maybe also Asian societies today. What is your view on that specifically? I mean, apart from the specific drug what do you call it actually? Do you call it a drug?
Well, in Europe, it's a device, or you could say this novel material, biomaterial. Yeah.
Okay. So this novice biomaterial. Apart from that, what do we need to do as a society to get a grips?
So much. We are doing it backwards completely, and that's really also what sort of triggers me. That we are spending so much resources on managing diseases, but we're yet not working preventively, and that's what we should be working on. I think everyone knows someone, whether it's friends, even your own family, having trouble to just eat healthier, to move more. Because of the fast-paced society we live in, our sleep is worse, we're stressing more, but we're also just, not consuming the right type of food. A change will have to come because our healthcare systems can't take it. Our healthcare systems, healthcare is increasing, healthcare expenditure is increasing globally. And we won't be able to, our societies won't have time to manage all these diseases. So we need to think preventively. And I think you as an individual have to also take a much greater responsibility. It's tough if bad food is cheaper than good food. But, you really have to, there are many tools out there to help you, on that journey. But I really think, unless you want to be spending time in a queue waiting, to get some healthcare, I think it's better that you as an individual take charge and that we, companies and society, that we help them with that. It can be reimbursement, for example, preventative measures. It can be that you go to your boss and say, friskvårdsbidrag, I really want you to pay for me to exercise, and so on and so forth. But we as a society, we need to take a much larger responsibility in working preventively.
Yeah. Going down a completely different path, the one of financing again. I mean, if you would give the young Sana of 9 years ago some advice, I mean, if you're sitting there and maybe having met Tore or the equivalent, but wouldn't have those investors, how do you advise young entrepreneurs today to go from that idea to making it a funded company or something that you can really build on?
So it's about a storytelling. If there's one thing I want to send out to everyone there who's looking to raise money or is raising money, it's about storytelling, okay? Obviously, the fundamentals need to be there. You have to have a unique product. The market needs to be there. You need to have, know what differentiates you from the competitors. Who is going to build this? Who is going to do this? All of these things. But basically, it's about telling the story in a very compelling way, setting the stage. In our case, we move too little. We sit by our computers a lot of the time. We don't eat as healthy as we should. We are more stressed. All of this is, contributing to the diseases, which are the villains. Who is the villain? The diseases, the obesity, diabetes. And who is the hero? Well, it's Sigrid. Because we have this novel technology who is safe, efficacious, and we have a team that's dedicated and passionate, and that's going to, make this into global success. So telling that story and coming out there with the sense of, passion, engagement, and credibility and trustworthiness. So I've been very lucky. I've met investors and they say, Sana, it's too early. I'm going to sit on this. I'm going to watch. No problem, I say. I add them on LinkedIn. I put them into our CRM system and I keep updating them for a year or two. And they say, Sana, wow, congrats. Excellent development. Is there any room to invest? And no doesn't have to be a no. It's a maybe. And just keep nurturing that relationship. So just, and also always bring in more money than what you think you need, because things always take more time than you planned, and things always cost more than you initially thought.
Good advice. Like you said, I mean, you went into the life science industry, and not because you wanted to stand out, but it was sort of a side effect as well. I mean, you said a lot of researchers quite male dominated. You mentioned, how has being a woman and entrepreneur and in this male dominated industry, how has that been? Has it presented certain challenges, maybe some opportunities as well?
Yes, I mean, I think still life science is better than many other areas. I think, if you look at the number of female CEOs in life sciences, at least on the stock exchange here in Sweden, they're actually more than any other industry. So I think it's actually getting better. But I think in my case, here I am. I come with a bachelor's degree. And this business is very heavy on the science, heavy on the research. A lot of people who start companies have a PhD. Some people looked sort of down on me in the beginning, but that's why it was so important for me to have Professor Tore as my co-founder. You have to have sort of 100% trust in your co-founder, that he's doing, he knows his shit. And he has to have the trust that, I will take care of the business side, whether it's fundraising, building teams, marketing, and so on. And I get a lot of people asking me, where will I meet a co-founder? And it's once and again, exposing yourself to these opportunities of networking, of being in different boot camps or programs. I think that's really, really important. But apart from that, I feel like, I don't spend too much time thinking about being, this whole gender thing. I spend more time on delivering and always thinking that my results will speak for themselves.
Coming back a little bit to what we talked about early on, finding your calling. I mean, the way you did it. Is there any like lessons you learned from that, apart from, you know, being active and creating that possibility for those moments to happen? Are there any other things you think about when you meet people from, for example, SSE or some other education that you know, work a couple of years and they feel that they're lost, basically?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, I mean, it's very just, you know, intuitively. If someone said, Sanna, you know, here's a great position, you can earn shitloads of money, sälja snus. I just instinctively feel, no, I don't like it. I don't like the look of it. I don't like what it does to you, to your teeth, to your health. Not for me. You can instinctively feel whether something is, you know, feels, you know, or if you're a person that's really interested in I don't know, fashion. If you spend, you know, couple of hours a day doing your hair, or, you know, testing different makeups, okay, you know, go there. Go there. I mean, you feel the drive, you know. I am obsessed, you know. I really, just the whole idea of, you know, that there's a product which is safe for you, which is healthy for you, and it can help you live healthier. I already know in my own family 2-3 people who actually can benefit from this. And then, you know, when you look at the statistics, it's billions of people, that just feels, you know, I feel passionate about that. It just feels right for me, you know. In the same way, if I drink, you know, green tea in the morning, yes, it's to get the caffeine and get going, but also because it has some antioxidant, I feel good about it. So just instinctively feel, you know, what product, what area, what industry makes me excited. How do I spend my time, you know, do I spend a lot of my time, you know, reading up on these as a hobby? Some women do, or generally some people do in health, on skincare, for example. They're passionate about that. Others, you're passionate about fashion or technology or whatever have you. Just, you know, feel that and don't stay too long. I've met people like who work at companies, you know, products they don't use themselves, they're not excited by them, and still they work there year in and year out. No, don't do that. Life's too short. Move on.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, to dare to try to find, you know, find the right thing in your career. Something that you mentioned as well in an earlier interview that I personally also like very much is that you said you subscribe to Peter Drucker's concept of building your career based on your strengths and not your weaknesses. Can you reflect a little bit about that?
So to be honest with you, and I think it's also good to be honest, like I was never really good at maths. I literally suck at maths. You know, it was a lot of hard work to get these good grades in maths. But you know, when I was at SSC, everyone was dying to get into banking, right? And I always failed. I did perfect in these interviews, social interviews, but I always failed at these analytical tests, you know. You know, first you feel bad about it, you know, like what's wrong with me? You know, why can't I nail this? But then I just realized, wait a second, you know, if one door closes, another door opens. So in my case, I didn't get to go to Morgan Stanley or whatever it was at that point. But I interviewed, I got an internship to Oriflame in Istanbul in Turkey. Amazing, right? And I got to do that instead. So, and I just realized, you know, market research and all of these things, every time, like I work on my strengths and I put more effort into doing tasks where, you know, that I'm good at, I save the company more time. I save everyone time. And then I can instead hire consultants who can do the Excel cracking for me or whatever it is. So, and actually not to be sort of like phased out about it. You can't be good at everything. It's normal, it's human. And just accept it and put more of your time and effort into building a company where you deploy your strengths and basically buffer up with people who complement you and know how to do the rest.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's many times I think a lot of young people especially get to hear that from everybody, like you got to work on your strength, your weaknesses, and you know, some people I'm sure also choose a study or a work on their weaknesses instead of, like you say, really focusing on your strengths. So that's, I think that's that's a great advice, because a lot of people have a lot of strengths, and when you look at that, staying a little bit on the strength, what as an entrepreneur, where do you see, like, how have you been able to really utilize those in the best of ways, and where do you really feel that you come across with those?
Well, for example, I love people. I love understanding what drives people, what's their motivations, what's their fears. Very critical if you're building a company and if you're building a team, So that is, understanding, just caring. I just really care about my team, each one of them. I make my efforts to see, okay, Sigrid is developing. How can they develop with Sigrid? How can I make them grow, as the company grows? So these people skills have very come in handy. It's the same with investors. They're also people, networking with them, building trust, as I said, articulating a vision, that's equally important, because a lot of the people I'm working at Sigrid, they're not doing it, they're doing it because they want to change lives. They want to, bring groundbreaking research to the market. That's what drives them. And then I have to be very good at articulating what the vision of the company is, how we will get there. So I think once and again, and also exposing myself. I said networking, pitching. We've won many contests. We won many awards. That's also strength I have, not being scared of standing up on the stage and just delivering a message. And I think those type of things, have helped us get a lot of traction, a lot of goodwill, and a lot of PR marketing, which sort of have helped us, raise money, attract new talents, and so on and so forth.
You mentioned also earlier on that one of the maybe surprise challenges to you was like the difficulty in terms of building culture, building team, and the leadership. Tell us a bit about how you have developed your leadership, and how you've tried to develop that culture, because I can imagine a lot of people come to a company like Sigrid because of their passion to make a difference. But how do you make a company culture out of that?
Well, I think it's we just started and we just hired people, and we didn't have a vision, we didn't have a mission. We didn't. It was just, I was business, and the researchers were doing their things, and they didn't understand me, and I didn't understand them, and we hired some people who were less good. There was a lot of things, whether it was negative energy to free riders to whatever have you. And at some point I was like, okay, I really have to look at the company, what are our key words? What do we stand behind as a company? And we sort of did that work, okay, teamwork makes the dream work. Team is always above everyone else. Like every achievement we do, whether it's raising money, I always tell, I can raise the money because you in the lab, you give me something to raise money on. So it's a team effort. So, or whether they do something great in the lab, they can do that because I'm bringing the money for them to be able to do that. It's like a symbiotic relationship, like the tree and the mushroom. We're, working together, we're feeding off one another. So that has been very important to actually do and also articulate that vision and those commandments. We have those like better ask for forgiveness than for permission. It's been very important to me that people can fail, that the researchers, if an experiment failed, that they're not scared of it, that, better do things. And if it's wrong, you can always apologize later rather than, always waiting to get a permission. So there's a couple of these words we worked with, and even if you have a bad apple, because one bad apple can create a really nasty environment, you also have to be, as a CEO, you have to say, no, I've made an effort to make this work. It's not working any longer. I think it's better, we go our separate ways and remove that person. So I've learned a lot about leadership, and I've learned a lot. It's not about me. It's about the team, what the team can do. and just making sure, I don't lose out on individuals because I haven't seen them, or their urge for development is, to always make sure, can I adapt the role so they can get to do what they also are passionate about, or can I offer them, researchers, whether it's to go to conference or publishing or whatever is it, just to understand and be interested in people's motivations.
How do you work with talent attraction, and how do you make sure that you get as many good green apples as possible in the team?
Yeah, I mean, we have development talks. We have very good, we celebrate our birthdays. We have very low, like if we're in a room, the whole team, everyone can voice their opinion. Everyone, it's really högt i tak, there's really room for different opinions and for people to have input on their work and what they think is important. And also, if someone says, I'm really interested in clinical study, for example, I really want to do this, well, we always try to accommodate people's desires to grow within Sigrid. I would like to learn more about QMS, quality systems, and so on. So it's just the whole culture of transparency. We see you, I see you, I recognize you. It's the team effort. Everyone is equally important. We're all in it together. Just these, this sense. And also, like, you always have to work, as like this year, we had a great fundraise. I made sure to give everyone a bonus, even though we're a startup. We're not making any money yet, but it was very important to me, because it is a team effort that everyone gets that. We do kickoffs, and I always spend some money on that, in going somewhere nice. We always, we just make sure to really make, everyone appreciate it, and also spend some time together as a team to celebrate when we have.
For us at Nova, of course, I mean, we work with talent, and that's a big passion. But I think it's also clear that having the right talent will make, can make a business successful or even fail. How do you make sure that you have the proper talent pipeline, and that you attract the right kind of talent to Sigrid to be able to deliver on all those, the visions and the goals that you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's about having this rigorous interview process. We always have a case study, for example. We think it's very important. And we always let everyone meet the whole team, because, to get everyone's input. How does that person feel? How did you interact with her? Did you see any, it's just, we since we're still so small, we're 11 employees, we can still be all involved in selecting our next, or everyone can have a say in selecting our next team member. So I think that's very important. But then again, you make mistakes. I mean, you bring in someone and it doesn't work out, and it's really impossible to know also.
From one thing to a completely other. You also have a small child of your own now. You become a mother.
My second child after Sigrid.
After Sigrid, yeah. One is 9 months and one is 9 years. 7 years, sorry. How does that go? I mean, working as an entrepreneur and building the company while being a mother.
First of all, I'm lucky to have a healthy kid. I'm lucky to have a partner that wants to be at home with his son. I'm lucky to have support in my parents, and also even my brother and his girlfriend are engaged. So I understand I'm blessed in that aspect. Still, I decided after 3-4 months to go back full time, and I worked part-time throughout my maternity leave. That was not an easy choice to make, but the company was at an important trajectory. We had to deliver certain things because we were about to embark on a fundraise, and I just figured it's actually going to be. I will feel better knowing I can work a bit and just be in control and sort of and not lose any time there, than just saying hasta la vista, see you in 9 months, and then I come back and shit hits the fan. So that was one of the reasons. And secondly, It's fun. It's fun. If you love what you do, you never have to work a day, right? And I love what I do. I love this company. I love, the trajectory that we are on. And I actually didn't want to miss out on the fun. I didn't want to miss out on those important negotiations we had with AGC. And I found a way to make sure I was involved. And some people thought it was strange. There's always this question, how long to breastfeed and this and that. And there's a lot of opinions on how you should raise your kid and how you should be as a mother, more on the woman than on the man, I think. And to be honest with you, I looked a bit about the research, what the research said, some pros and cons, and then I did it my way. And I didn't spend too much time on these Facebook groups or these chats or whatever people are, these mom groups. I just used sunt bondförnuft.
Yeah, sounds wise. I think that's an important conversation to have about, combining the kind of work you do with being a mother or a father for that part. What's your reflection? What's your advice to women, young women, that might have recently graduated or early in their career when it comes to motherhood or fatherhood for that part?
Yeah. So I think, I'm seeing a lot of this, with a lot of friends who are waiting to have kids. And, there's never perfect time to have children, right? Especially, when you're, past 30s and you're doing this career thing or even younger. There's just never a perfect time. And actually, you get extremely effective with the kid, But I think also just, there are better times and worse times. So you obviously you want to make sure that you can provide for your child, that also you feel good, because if you are stressed, if you're not good, if you are tired, that will also affect the child.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't wait too long. Yes, we have IVF, we have all of this, but that's not easy either. That has its complications as well. That's also, I have a lot of friends undergoing that process. So rather, get the kid. If you want to have kids, if you don't want to have kids, perfectly fine. There's so many other ways to, experience self-actualization these days. But if you want to have, don't wait too long. You will work. We will work past our 60s now. There's plenty of time to do career as well.
So I think we're slowly needing to round off. This has been amazing dialogue. But just one last question there from myself is where do you find inspiration today?
I find it a lot through other, entrepreneurs. So I'm very much on LinkedIn, soaking up, other stories, and don't compare yourself to, all other stories. Just learn from them, whether it's someone, there's a lot of stories in the US about successful, launches of different supplements for against type 2 diabetes and so on. And I get inspired by that. I get inspired by all these stories of other female entrepreneurs, males, doesn't matter, that just go out there and do it, So that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. And also from my brilliant researchers and all of their creative ideas and everything. I think it's just we're living in unprecedented times right now. There's so much money to be raised. There's so much money out there. If you have a dream, if you have a vision, you really can get funded right now. The market is excellent. And there's just so many opportunities today as a small company, through e-commerce, selling direct to consumer. You don't have to necessarily, get into the supermarkets or in these pharmacies and so on. There's just so much opportunity out there right now.
Amazing, great answer, and thank you so much for taking time, Sana, but also for your very open and inspirational, sharing of your thoughts and your ideas and your life. So thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who tuned in for listening. And I hope you got some advice. If you want to talk with me or if you want some input, just write me on LinkedIn. As I said, I'm there almost every day. And thank you to you, Nova, for organizing.
Take care. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.